Welcome to That's What She Said, where we'll spill the tea on women empowerment in the Great Lakes Bay region with your host, Christiana Malacara.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to That's What She Said with me, Christiana Malacara. Thank you for tuning in whichever way you're tuning in, which would be a live viewing on Thursdays at 1:30 at Facebook, YouTube, and those wonderful places. Or you may be tuning in on the radio or online to WSGW 100.5 FM and 790 AM on Saturday morning for those early birds of mine at 8 a.m. or in the evening on Sunday at 6 p.m. That's more how I roll. But nevertheless, thank you for tuning in and investing in yourself as we spill the tea on women empowerment. There was something that I came across today as I was, doom scrolling, as we all do at times, which, in that realm, doom scrolling it says doom, right? But at the same time, it's kind of exciting, right? You're just seeing new things, learning new things very quickly, and then you put it down and go away. Well, I happened to come across someone else's conversation, and they were talking about staying stuck in happiness. And obviously that hook got me. Staying stuck in happiness. Well, I want to be happy. I want to live in happiness. I want to exist in this happy space. If it's a physical space, if it's someone, if it's a state of mind, if it's your career. But then they went on to say that staying stuck in happiness kind of leaves you with nowhere to go next. You have all this ambition, you have all this power. Why not keep going? So move through happiness to your next happy place, to that next achievement, and evolve. Create evolvement with happiness. So yes, we are happy. We're happy today. We're grateful today. But there's always a tomorrow that can be better. And the only person to make it better is you. So as you move through your week, just reflect on that. Hey, am I staying happy? Am I stuck in happiness? Am I content with where I'm at? Yeah, maybe. But hey, we can get more of that too. So thank you for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. And we have someone who is, when I've only met her once before, and we ended up sitting on a panel and having a discussion, and I'm grinning ear to ear. Every time this woman spoke, I was like, yes, 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 yes. Like, and I'm in this panel. I'm sitting there on this panel discussion. I'm over here trying to stay proper and, nod. And I'm just inside. I'm all fired up. I was like, this girl got it. She has to come on and just share that with you. So I have Moira with us, Moira Branigan. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate you coming on. Because it was a leap, right?
Yeah.
You're like, who's this girl? Who's this girl and what is she talking about? And we were just discussing that you tune in. You're a listener, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great work. I love listening to women, sharing their wisdom. So yeah, that's what I'm all about. So
yes, you really are. So can you introduce yourself and how the community might know you?
Yeah. Absolutely. I am Moira Branigan. Many people may know me from my current role with the YWCA Great Lakes Bay region. I am the executive director. I've been there since 2018. Prior to that, I was with the Great Lakes Bay Regional Alliance as well for 5 years. So that's how a lot of people know me. I am not a native Great Lakes Bay region person. I'm transplanted here because of my husband, but that's like, I think, I'm a Bay Cityan. That's how a lot of people know me. So yeah.
Bay Cityan, is that the proper term?
Yeah.
Okay. Now it is.
Now it
We've
is.
said it on That's What She Said. It's official. So YWCA, you said you're the executive director.
Mm-hmm.
Those two words together are just like, like, whoa.
Yeah.
What do you do? What do you do there? What does that mean?
Well, our whole mission is to, our official mission is to eliminate racism, empower women, but we focused on our women's economic empowerment program. And that's how I got to know the YW like over 10 plus years ago. When I met their executive director at the time, got introduced to the Getting Ahead program that we still currently lead, but I just getting introduced to that all those years ago kind of opened my eyes to a lot of the challenges that women in our region face. And wow, that's cool that there's this program that this agency runs. It's completely optional for people to participate. There's lots of great benefits, and this is not a plug for my program, but yeah, that's how I got introduced to that. And other things, I'm fundraising, event planning. I've got a really tiny little team. We're a mighty team of 2.5, and got an awesome board. So yeah, I just running around doing all the things, I guess. So
You
yeah,
are.
days are full.
What is this program called again?
Yeah, we call it the Women's Economic Empowerment Program.
Okay.
Now, it grew out of this little program called Getting Ahead, and it's goal setting. It's how, if you are stuck and you are maybe in a shelter, or you're maybe just exited a domestic violence situation, or you are, working part-time jobs, or you're just stuck in the struggle. And how do you get from stuck to, getting to accomplish your dreams? This program is a great way for women to take a chance to pause, analyze what their goals are, and make a plan for their future. We added a financial empowerment program 5 years ago that helps a lot of women who have dealt with financial abuse along with domestic violence abuse. So it's really written from that lens to help them as they are trying to get themselves safe, to open up and checking a checking account, savings account, work on their credit, work on their security and their safety for themselves and their family. So yeah, and then we do reunions and all sorts of things like that. So yeah.
That's wonderful. That is, I mean, in my eyes, obviously that's a powerful tool.
Yeah.
You mentioned there this almost a transition from someone who's in this chaotic situation to streamlining, their life and their needs. And before you made that transition in words, you said for them to take a pause.
Yeah.
What does that pause look like?
Yeah. Well, gosh, that is the term from a lot of the curriculum that we use is called the tyranny of the moment, where you are just stuck in everything is coming at you. You are like just putting out fires left and right. Kids have needs, your sister calls and needs you to help with them. Your mom calls, or your husband needs something, or, life is just chaos. You got to go into work. How do you find time for yourself to look at, like, hey, is this job working for me? Or do I need to think about, do I need another credential? Do I need to go back to school? Do I need to, whatever. In life, I only have one child. I know how busy and full my life is with my one child who's able to feed and clothe himself and get him where he needs to go. But like, if you have littles and you are just so many women are the core of the family. They're the people that everything kind of stops with them. And if they are down, or they're not feeling well, or they are stuck, or they're depressed, things kind of crumble. So like, how can women take a pause, find out what they need to make their lives is, full and is rich, and be able to provide what they need for themselves and for their family. So yeah.
Can you share, an example of what a pause might look like for someone that you've encountered?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. Well, we've had women who are, I think the most pressing example would be for women who have experienced they're exiting it's a chaotic situation. They're getting out of a domestic violence situation. They're going to a shelter, and they need to find, they need to get all of their things, maybe their kids, and they are all of a sudden, they're sitting down and they are like, well, what am I going to do now? How am I going to support myself? A lot of times, and this is, I know there's national statistics about this, but it can take up to 7 times for women to finally leave if they are, experiencing, emotional, physical violence in the home. But to have that chance to just like sit down and be in a shelter room and be like, God, what next? What next? And so we've there's probably hundreds of stories of women who walked through our doors through the years. One story, and I'm probably getting 60% of this correct, because I'm trying to remember. There was a woman who came to us who had spent years and years and years living in and out of shelters, living in her car. She grew up with a father who's an alcoholic who just like did not provide her with the tools that she needed to get ahead. And so she was leaving situations, but like, where are you going to live? You're not going to live in your car. So you're going to go back. And then you just need that, how are you going to keep a roof over your head? So she came through our program after a lot of years of instability, and it's been a great example of a success story. So, going through those programs and setting that goal down on paper and working towards it. It's never a straight line. And if you get stuck and you get a little waylaid on your way to where you need to go, it's completely understandable. And that's why we want to be around to help. So.
I think that's important that you said it's never a straight line, because honestly, when is it ever? Right?
Never for me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm same. So domestic violence, it is, sadly it is common, but that's also an extreme situation, right?
Yeah.
That is something that needs to happen, and something people need to get in place to help. And you said tools.
Yeah.
So for our listeners that are out there and just kind of like, I think she's describing me, or, I know a girl, right?
Yeah.
What are some of those, key tools to start that conversation with her?
Oh, about getting out and
Yeah.
getting on. Yeah, I know. There's so many. Gosh, and I'm sure that we've all been there, or your friend, and you're just like, oh, love all of the stuff I'm hearing. What's going on underneath the subtext? I think, and this is from my perspective and kind of a amalgamation of things that I've read and things I've heard, approaching the conversation with, not jumping to conclusions and condemning, but like, hey, how's it going? Open-ended questions, expressing concern and care for them, open-ended, if you ever need anything from me, just let me know. Cause it's, it can be, again, it can be embarrassing to admit that you might be stuck, or that you might be kind of, in a situation that you'd rather not be, and that you may be a victim, because nobody wants to ever be, and I get it too. And nobody wants to be called a victim, or called, it's even hard. And we can talk about this in the future. I have gone through breast cancer, and I even hate the word breast cancer survivor. I'm just like, this has nothing to, I really hate that kind of term. Like I'm a victim of that. Like, I really, it kind of makes me a little itchy. So I can imagine that mindset might be similar for a woman who's had, you have something happen to you. You're just like, I'm not a victim. So, approaching with humility and concern and open-endedness. So that's my non-professional advice, I guess. So yeah.
Well, if it was said on That's What She Said, then it's all good. So you mentioned breast cancer.
Yeah.
When did that happen?
16 years ago. Yeah.
16 years ago.
Yeah. So I was 30 and I just had my son, and I was diagnosed like when he was 3 months old. So, I never go into it, but it was a really pivotal moment in my life, and obviously my family's life. So yeah.
And the label behind that.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever, communicate with other, survivors? And what did that look like?
Yeah. That was one thing. I was really thankful. I guess I'm going to plug another nonprofit agency that's outside of the region, because I was living down in Ann Arbor when all this happened. And it was the cancer support community in Ann Arbor. And I actually knew the director there too. And she was like, we have support groups for women who survive breast cancer, because there's a lot that comes with that. Like, yeah, you are happy when you are done, and you're happy and relieved, obviously, when you are through the other side of that journey. But there's a lot of baggage that goes along with that. And a lot of times, some of the terms, just like, it, again, this like, it doesn't feel like that's me. I'm not a victim. I didn't, it's kind of all, I think about it like being like in a car accident or something. Would you, like, it's just this thing that happened, and it has these lasting ramifications. But people obviously get, I understand. People get weird when you have to tell them that you got diagnosed with cancer. Friends and family members can, they're really concerned and they care, but it's like they are dealing with their own grief and their own weirdness around illness, so there's a lot that comes along with that. And then a lot of the the breast cancer, awareness imaging, is kind of like, save the tatas.
Yeah.
It's fine, but it's
Yeah.
not for me.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
like, there's a lot of like narratives around
Yeah.
breasts and
Yeah.
women and value and all of the other stuff. So
okay. So I'm thinking back to a new mom. That's a whole situation in itself,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
You're dealing with this this child that's, the happiest thing, right? But yet keeping you up every night. And we're changing diapers and feeding and trying to figure out their schedule, trying to figure out your schedule, trying to navigate through. Some women develop postpartum depression.
Yeah.
Navigating through that. Your relationship dynamic changes. Your body changes. You had an added layer to that.
Yeah.
How were you able to, what did that look like for you? Can we just unpack that for a moment?
Yeah. It was, you go into autopilot. You really kind of end up like, I felt like you just kind of are like, you're doing the day-to-day survival. You kind of like, I felt like parts of my brain kind of powered down a little bit. You're just like, we're just one day at a time, just going through it, having amazing doctors and my husband, who is a saint. Just like, you struggle through it and you get through it. But yeah, it really, and then also, the practical aspects of like the medication makes you a little fuzzy, and then you're like, afterwards it feels like there's always little holes in my memory, and I'm like, oh no, that's the way it works. I think that, all the trauma and the medicine definitely gives you Swiss cheese brain. So yeah, it was a lot of just you definitely just kind of survive.
You went into survival mode.
Yeah.
Day to day.
Yeah.
What was the role of your husband at the time?
Oh, yeah. He had it rough, and new dad, you're trying to sleep, and then you're like being the caretaker for two people in the household. Yeah, it was heavy. It took a long time to kind of get out from under that, and it is it's never a like, first, the last time you walk out of the hospital and you're just like, oh man, that's behind me now. It's like, that's just when the beginning starts. Everything, you kind of have to kind of unpack a lot of that and figure out what life is like after it, because it's never the same. It's kind of like post-COVID. Everybody's like, I just want to go back to the way it was before. It's not the same. So, and that's okay. But yeah, it definitely is a lot of change.
You take a piece of that with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You said he had it rough.
Yeah, he had it rough.
You had it rough.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. It was not great, but yeah.
But you move. Yeah. There's this time of moving through something, right? I'm going to forget the name of the book right now, of course, because it's right here, right? But there's this book that talks about obstacles. And we always say, oh, we're going to overcome that obstacle. Well, when you overcome something, if there's a boulder in your path and you just go over it, did you really experience it? Are you learning from it? Did you take from it? And the answer is, you need to go through your obstacle. So that way you get these pieces along the way of, yes, I understood that problem. I resolved that problem. And now I'm on the other side of this boulder in my path. And what did we take away from that? Yeah. So when you were navigating through being a new mom, that pivotal age of 30, right? I swear everything happens when you're 30. That's when my knee started to hurt. Nothing in comparison to what you're going through at the age of 30.
Yeah.
You have a very unique perspective on turning 30, being a new mom, being a breast cancer survivor, going through that with your partner. What were some of the takeaways that you can share that you experienced at that time?
Well, I mean, and I think this sounds hokey. That's not what I'm trying to get at, but I feel like I never really thought about my my womanness or my femaleness or anything. I just always, thought about feminism, thought about all these other things, but I just didn't really see where it fit for me prior to that. And then, or it was like, I'm fine. I'm the same as anybody else. But it really, the toughness and the mental toughness that I have, I guess, or something that I learned through that about myself. It sounds like I'm setting myself, I'm bragging about something, but no, I was like the toughness and the just like you're just gonna do what you need to do, and having great doctors and great medical care, which again was not everybody has, but we did at the time, and just like showing up and being like, okay, what's happening today, listening to your body, listening to the wisdom of other women who've gone through this. It's like I that listening to my body has been is like I'm always on high alert now. That's one of the things that have stayed. I'm very kind of tied into health and all of that now. But yeah, so
listen to your body.
Yeah, listen to your body.
That's a big one then.
Yeah, and yeah, I think that could be the whole story. Is like listen to your body, ask for be an advocate for yourself. Because I went in with something that was a concern, and I'm like, I don't know if this is what it is. And they were like, oh, no, that's not what it is. And then they, XYZ tests. All of a sudden, they're calling me saying, hey, it's cancer. So, yeah, not taking no for an answer. Really, that's be the squeaky wheel. Sometimes that's not normalized. Or you're like, you get labeled if you're a woman doing that. So be the squeaky wheel, be tough.
Be the squeaky wheel.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And we're going to dive really actually quite deep because I have a lot of notes on my paper, guys. So we are going to dive deep. So stay tuned, come back, and we'll be back with Moira.
That's What She Said with Christiana Malacara is back. Now let's spill the tea.
Thanks for coming back to listen to all the tea on women empowerment. We are having a conversation with Moira Branigan, and she left that last segment with loads of advice. We started the conversation with, hey, who are you? And we got pretty deep in conversation pretty quickly. And we ended that last segment with something that I wrote down. I mean, my paper's loaded here with notes. Be an advocate for yourself. And that led to you essentially learning how to be an advocate for yourself. But do you feel that women do this? What is your take on that with women in that relationship?
I feel like if you are used to being taken seriously, or if you are looked at as being somebody who comes in who automatically generates respect from the room, this might be, class thing, job title thing, that if you are treated with respect, you are able to do that. Or if you feel that confidence in yourself, even if you're pretending, faking it till you make it, I think that's something I've seen. Some women in our, like, not all, obviously there are some tough great women in our programs, but sometimes you get dragged down through life circumstances and things are happening and you just really, it feels like you're shouting into the void and nobody can hear you. So I think that it is more common in some areas than others. I guess I sound like I'm hedging, but I feel like it is. It's becoming more common too. I think that the generations coming up, they're getting the memo about this versus maybe me when I was like 21. I was just like, oh, whatever, anybody, you just kind of like take what it happens to you, and maybe you've been modeled that, loud mouthy women, it's like, don't be like that. But, that's how, if you don't ask, you don't get, you gotta be out there asking for, advocating for yourself. So, yeah.
Why do you think that though? That there's this generation that's coming up that's like, I'm here for it. I'm asking, I'm raising my hand, I'm showing up. What makes you think that?
Yeah, I have had the pleasure of meeting, and I'm thinking about Gen Z, my son's in that generation, and then like, meeting high school girls that, are in class with him, or seeing, we had some interns over the years who are all in that generation in college right now. And they don't flinch in the face of advocating for themselves. So that's just, again, my unscientific observation. I know that there are tough self advocates in all generations, but I just feel like it was just more like, don't make waves, don't be that, don't have that energy. And I just feel like that's just hopefully going away. Maybe it's optimism. Maybe I'm hoping that more of that kind of conditioning goes away as people,
No, I
we
feel
learn.
it too.
Yeah.
I feel it too. And it's that conditioning portion that you said right there. I always think that there needs to be someone at the forefront, right? That trailblazer. And, they might have, blazed through this situation, but there's always somebody behind them, right?
Yeah.
And, that girl behind her and behind her and behind her, and they're taking little pieces and saying, oh, they did this, I can do it too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of it is, those risk takers, the people who are at the forefront, honestly, like yourself here at the YWCA, you're at the forefront and there's people watching, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what are some ways that listeners can develop those skills? And maybe they don't, the skills of advocating for themselves.
Yeah.
Maybe, maybe they don't have a trailblazer to follow, or, just a mentor or anybody in their life. What would you say to them?
Yeah, that's a tough one, because it can be like and I don't know, maybe this is just me, or maybe this is, I've heard this before, like that little voice inside of you that like speaks up, and you're just like, I don't know, like something happens, or I wanted to speak up at work and I didn't really get there, or I wanted to mention this and raise my hand and be like, but what about this? But it wasn't like my natural state to be like that. And it is not, and it took me a long time to get to that point too. So I think listening to your heart when you hear, if you feel like you've been put on the back heel, or you feel like you weren't taken seriously, or that your question really wasn't answered by that other individual, or that maybe the power in the room is saying, hey, don't ask any more questions, it might come off weird. Just trying to listen to that. And so kind of building that skill in yourself, that you can recognize when, no, that's not enough. No, I need to say something. No, even if it's like a squeak, it might come out the first time, making that first step to speaking up. And it may be clumsy. It may be hard. It may not go across right, but the first try, and practice.
Have you been that person who just raises your hand a little bit, but hopes somebody else asks the question?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah?
I think so. I'm not always like the most vocal person in the room sometimes, or the meetings. I'm not like, flipping the table over or making a big, if I making a big scene, if I don't agree with something or anything like that. I'm not, that's not my energy. But yeah, I really try to be the well, what about this? Or, just, getting that question in. Yeah, I think there's a spectrum that you can be in. You don't have to be all or nothing. You can, tiptoe your way. And it's a skill that I'm still working to develop in myself too. So
yeah, you keep mentioning your energy. What do you define your energy as then?
Oh man. That's a great question. I would say I don't know. I am an introvert, and I can also get going with enough coffee. I can.
Oh, okay.
So don't talk. I can, or I'm fired up, like we were in that panel that day,
Yes.
and I'm just like, I'm still going to talk. But yeah, I would say try to be thinking about the other people in the room. I try to be thinking about myself and being supportive and kind, and being in a space where, it's, yeah, like kindness is always trying when I'm trying to go for. I want people to leave feeling good after talking with me, or, being in a meeting. I want people to be supported, like just thinking about my team too at work.
So you said you defined yourself as an introvert. Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
Oh yeah, it is. It's something that I've had to learn to be okay with, because sometimes you get that messaging that introverts like to be a leader, to be an effective leader, you've got to be out there, you've got to be a type A, you've got to be the first person raising the hand to talk, and that's just never been me. So yeah, I guess it's been a journey of self-acceptance, but I don't know. Maybe I'm becoming a little bit more extroverted the older I get too. So
You're literally on a radio show.
Yeah, I know.
So okay, so then here's this. We need all types of people, this entire spectrum of, all types of people, but all types of women.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We do need that girl where we can be like, hey, ask them this question. And they'll be like, I got
yeah.
you.
Oh, yeah.
Raising their hand. We need both ends of that.
Mhm.
So a lot of the people that are influential to you, where have you found them as an introvert?
Yeah. That's a great. Yeah, you're good at this. That's a good one. I would
Thanks,
say
Moira.
that I'm listening. I'm listening when I'm in meetings, or in my last role with the Alliance. You're just in the room with a lot of people all the time, so you can I was always like the lurker in the back of the room, maybe even, and I was like watching things. I was organizing panel discussions and listening to wisdom from them. But yeah, just getting to try to know as many people as you can in just a little way, and then opening people up with conversation. I feel like my board, a lot of my board members are that to me, because I've gotten to build that trust and relationship with them, even coworkers. So a lot of times it's work, that's just where I am most of the time. So, but obviously family and
you're watching,
friends.
you're watching and learning.
Yeah.
I know there's times where we are in those, meetings, right? And there's always somebody taking notes, and you don't really need to take notes at that time, right? There's always someone who's the active listener.
Mm-hmm.
And I always look at that person or try to connect with that person after the meeting. And I'm just like, what did you catch that I didn't?
Oh yeah, that's great.
Because
Yeah.
that's the thing, right? The
Mhm.
person at the front who's asking the questions, they might not be listening. They might just be ready to ask a question and hear their voice.
Yes.
So
like waiting for the pause.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep, my turn. So I'm hearing to be an active listener and really, place yourself in situations where there are community leaders, there are leaders, someone who you do, admire, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even as your self-proclaimed introvert Bay Cityan, I don't even know. I don't even know if I agree with that self-proclaimed term you're giving yourself, honestly. But we all need to recharge, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are some things that you do?
Yeah. I am really into I love a good audiobook. I love a good podcast. I love doing FaceTime happy hours with my friend who lives out of town, and so we
FaceTime happy hours. Pause. What?
Yes. My friend Tara, who used to be here in town, moved on to Detroit with her husband a couple years ago, and so we wanted to keep on meeting for happy hours. So we just do it on FaceTime every couple weeks, and then we, obviously in person too. But yeah, that's always a great way to kind of re-energize, and then I love my Peloton. That's another way I try to recharge. And that's a little bit more active, but the other ones are a little bit more passive. But yeah, and spending time with my family. I know I'm sure I do not skip over mentioning my husband and my son, because they're also another way, hanging out with them.
How old is your son?
16.
16.
Yeah.
So he's busy too.
Yeah.
And he has his own day-to-day agenda.
Yep.
Are you okay with that as a mom?
Yeah, it's good. He's a good kid. He's a good boy. He's, but yeah, it's weird. High school was a weird transition.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie. Yeah.
I mean, he's your baby.
Yeah. And he's 6'2", and he's like huge. Yeah, he's huge. He's a huge baby. But yeah, it's good. It's, thinking about when he's not gonna be at home is always kind of like what's that gonna be like? But yeah, I don't know. It's
Is he an introvert?
He says he is too.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah.
This is
Although,
interesting.
yeah. So I'm like, dude, no, that's not possible. But yeah.
Oh, so let's kind of talk. Let's talk a little bit about being a mom again.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a mom. I love being a mom. I have littles, and I always think, well, fairly recently, my daughter, she wanted to make a decision on her own, and she's 9, and I just thought, ugh, I really want to make that decision for you, and it was kind of hard for me to like step aside. So as you transitioned to a mom of a high school student, what did that look like when you started at the beginning of the year for you?
Yeah, it is. That stuff is really hard because you don't want them to feel disempowered or that like they can't bring. I mean, he's a little sensitive. I don't want him to feel like he's under my thumb too much. So I've really tried to think about that, even though I'm like in my heart, I'm like, oh my God, you can't do that. Sounds terrible. I'm just like, okay, buddy, whatever you think. Like, I'm here. Do you want to like plan that a little bit, or do you want to like, can we talk about this idea or whatever it is, whatever the situation is. But I really, he's an only child, so that's a different dynamic. I think he's, parent pleaser. He wants to make sure that, we pat him on the head at the end of the day and say he's done a good job. But I really want him to feel good about making decisions, because that's a really hard thing to learn how to do on your own. It took me a really long time, to learn that skill. I can trust myself, or that, hey, if I make a bad mistake, I can, like, it's not the end of the world in most cases, you can figure it out. But yeah, it's a lot of like saying one thing and then like saying little prayers, like, oh my God, please. Yeah. You're like, no, you're good. You got it. I totally believe in you. And then the background being like, oh my God. But yeah.
You got him, right? No matter what, you got him. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
So you said you had to work through kind of these almost self-confidence things, right?
Yeah, sure.
Push yourself.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
God, jumping into the deep end of the pool without thinking about it too hard. No, I feel like my current role, although it's definitely a skill that I've worked on for years and years, like you're the buck stops with you, and you're the person who's got to make the decision. It could go one way or another, and yeah, it just doing it. Usually, something that may have paralyzed me 10 years ago definitely does not faze me today. And I know I still have so much more to learn and places to grow too. So, but yeah, I can analyze things from every different direction. I'm like, well, let me just think about that a little bit longer. And then, I like, try to, make an argument one way or another, and then just be like, we'll figure it out. It's all good. But yeah, it definitely is not. It's not something that comes automatically. So
is that okay that you're a lifelong learner on self-growth?
You
think it's okay for women to, man, because there's so many times we interact, right, with some pretty powerful women sometimes, right? And we walk away from that conversation, we're like, she's got it. She knows, all her ducks are in a row. Everything's going smoothly.
Yeah.
But sometimes we don't know the full story.
Right. And you can't judge yourself by the, your insides by somebody's outsides, the way that they're presenting themselves, or like, yeah, that self-doubt is always there, that imposter syndrome. Usually you have to shove it down, put it in the next room. Like, I know you're there, but like, try not to let it.
But we're not listening to you today.
Yeah.
We're going to hop on the Peloton and get through this day.
Yeah. It's just, but it's not always automatic. So yeah, I think it's good to remember that, yeah, not everybody's struggling with the same thing, or maybe they're thinking the same thing when they're walking away from you being like, gosh, I didn't say that quite right. I don't know if I landed my argument or whatever, but.
Are you an overthinker?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Can you tell? No.
I mean, no, but maybe.
Yeah.
So, are there pros and cons to being an overthinker though? And a decision maker?
Well, if you're an overthinker and you're a decision maker, you will have usually come up with 99% of the 99 ways that this could go either one way or the other. And so at least you know what you're dealing with. If this decision goes sideways or something doesn't work out the way you thought, you're like, well, okay, it went this way instead of this way. Yeah, I'm sure it could be better. I'm sure that I lose a lot of time and energy and do that a little bit too much, but I don't know. Yeah, it's the only way, but I know it's sometimes it's the only way. You gotta, kind of.
Well, because on the other end of that spectrum of women that we're talking about, we have that type A person that's just like jumping into it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that might not always be the best case too.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely the thing that I focus on doing at work every day is like, okay, we've got this. Let's think through all of the things. And then sometimes I will just set it for a day and come back to it and be like, okay, I've thought through all 5,000 different ways this could go. And I'm okay with these things happening and I can live if this happens. But yeah, it's I definitely have to manage around it. So
I can kind of relate. I don't know if I'm over here trying to analyze myself as I'm talking to you at the same time here. So, which kind of person in that spectrum of women do you lean towards the most as a mentor?
I really love hearing from, I think I just being drawn to folks who just have a different, obviously I love people who are very similar to me, but I really find it interesting to befriend or be in the room with or observe. I'm lucky to have a couple of board members like this, people who are just like, they got it handled. They're like, I don't even know why this is even like you got this, or like, what about A or B? What about this? And I'm just like, oh man, you're good at this, So I think that it's good to find somebody who's kind of got that polar opposite energy and idea making and thought process, because I can definitely learn from that. I can always learn from that. And it's always gratifying. But then also it's cool to talk to the people who are kind of the lurkers in the back of the room too, and they're very deeply considering things, and then they're like, oh, I had this observation. So
and then you're like, me too.
Yeah. Yeah, like over analyzing everything. So
oh man. So when it comes to work, right?
Yeah.
You're doing amazing things at the YWCA. There's this motto that you have that uses my favorite word, empowerment.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What is your favorite way on how you're empowering others? And then we'll end the segment with our signature question. But first, what are some of your favorite ways you empower women?
Yeah, the programs that we do are the thing that really brings me a lot of pride, a lot of fulfillment. Even on the tough days, it is really easy to walk in and feel energized at work by either our programs or, we do this, one of our major events is Women of Achievement. And that is a place where we give out awards to women from, nominated from the community and in certain areas. And we give out awards to 5 or 6 women every year. And those, I learned something from every single one of those women. And so that's always just kind of lifting them up, even people who are unsung heroes, people who maybe don't always get the award. That's what I feel really proud about.
So what is one piece of advice that you would pass along to a woman in the Great Lakes Bay region?
Yeah, I would say if you have a positive thought, or you observe something great about a woman that you're in a meeting with or that you're on a board with or whatever, and you think, man, she really killed it today, or that really went great, or oh my God, I love what she's wearing, just say it. Because you never know. They might be struggling with self-doubt, or they might have just like thought they put their foot in their mouth, or you never know. And then just like, if you can be kind, just pass that along right away. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to That's What She Said. And that was Moira Branigan. And she said, just do it. Just be kind and just do it, because that's what she said. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.